began with one question, a single sentence that should have been easy, but instead exposed something far deeper, something no director of a federal agency should ever struggle with. October 22nd, 2026, Washington, D.C. A routine oversight hearing, at least on paper. No one in the Dirksen building that morning expected the moment that would follow, but history rarely announces itself before it arrives. At 10:03 a.m., Senator Aria Klovernar took her seat. Calm, measured, focused. A former prosecutor with a reputation for quiet precision. Across from her sat Patrell, the newly appointed director of the Federal Intelligence Bureau, an agency entrusted with national security, civil rights, and investigative power over millions. Patrell had been in the job for just 74 days, long enough to appear confident, not long enough to truly be tested. That test was coming. The room settled, cameras locked in. The usual formalities passed with practiced ease. Patrell delivered his prepared remarks flawlessly, thanking the committee, praising the Bureau, repeating familiar lines about dedication, integrity, and public safety. It was the kind of statement that fills the first 5 minutes of every hearing. Polished, predictable, safe. Senator Klovernar listened without expression, not cold, simply patient. When he finished, she looked down at a small notebook. Not a binder, not a folder of talking points, just a single notebook. Thin, worn at the edges, with a few carefully marked pages. That alone should have been a warning. "Director Patrell," she began, "you swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution. I assume you are familiar with its contents." Patrell smiled, the kind of smile people give when they expect an easy question. "Of course, Senator. The Constitution is the foundation of everything we do at the Bureau." Klovernar nodded slowly. "Good. Then let's begin with something simple." She paused just long enough for the room to lean in. "Which article of the Constitution establishes your agency?" The question landed like a grain of sand dropped on a scale. Small on its own, but perfectly placed. Patrell didn't answer immediately. A flicker of confusion crossed his face. Barely a second, but enough for the cameras to catch it. "Senator," he began cautiously, "the Bureau operates under Article 2 as part of the executive branch and under various congressional authorities in Article 1. It was the kind of answer that sounds confident if no one actually knows the details, but Klovernar did. She flipped to the first marked page in her notebook. "Director, does the Constitution explicitly mention any federal law enforcement agency by name?" Patrell exhaled, a soft, almost imperceptible sigh. "While it doesn't specify the Bureau by name, it provides—" "Yes or no, Director?" Her voice was calm, not aggressive, not theatrical, just precise. "No," Patrell admitted. "It does not." "Correct." A faint nod. No satisfaction, just confirmation. "And since the Constitution grants the federal government only enumerated powers, what principle limits your authority as director?" Patrell straightened in his chair. "Senator, the Bureau can investigate anything that threatens the American people." Klovernar blinked once. "Anything?" "That is our mission," he said. More confidently now, as if repeating it made it true. There are moments in hearings when the air changes, when everyone, staffers, camera operators, even senators, realizes that something irreversible just happened. This was one of those moments. Klovernar closed the notebook gently. "Director, are you stating, for the record, that your agency has unlimited investigative authority whenever you personally determine that something threatens the American people?" Patrell hesitated, but only for a second. "Yes, Senator, that is correct." Silence. Not the polite silence of congressional ritual. A different silence. The kind that fills a room when people realize they heard something impossible. Klovernar didn't raise her voice. She didn't lean forward. She didn't show triumph. She simply opened her notebook again, Director Patrell, she said quietly, the 10th Amendment states that the powers not delegated to the United States are reserved to the states or to the people. You just claimed the authority to investigate anything you wish. She let the words sit. Do you understand that your statement is the opposite of constitutional law? Patrell began to speak. Senator, obviously the Bureau operates within... She raised a hand slightly. Not to silence him, to correct him. You told this committee that your authority is unlimited. You told this committee that you may investigate anything. You told this committee that constitutional limits do not apply to you. Her tone remained steady, unshaken. Those statements are incompatible with the oath you swore. Patrell's confidence drained from his expression like color fading from a photograph. He attempted to revise his claim, tried to frame it as misunderstanding, tried to retreat back into safe bureaucratic phrases, but the damage was done. Every camera had recorded the moment. Every microphone had captured the words. Every senator had heard them clearly. And Senator Klovernar, she simply allowed it to stand. Her final line was delivered with the precision of a surgeon removing the last thread. Director Patrell, your belief in unlimited federal police power is not a policy difference. It is a constitutional failure. Then she closed the notebook. The hearing continued, but the outcome had already become inevitable. Within hours, the 10-second clip of Patrell's answer spread across every major network. By evening, constitutional scholars were calling it the most significant oversight revelation in decades. By the end of the week, editorials across the nation questioned how a director could misunderstand the very limits of his own authority. 74 days into his tenure, Patrell had made the one mistake from which no federal official can recover. He revealed in his own words that he did not understand the power he had been given, and Senator Aria Klovernar, with one question, one pause, and one notebook, made sure the entire country heard it.